In most video games that feature any amount of combat or action, there is no tool more sacred or crucial to the gamer's experience than the gun. Guns in games stand out more than other weapons due to their aesthetic, impact on gameplay, and other times storytelling. But this video is not about what gun is the strongest or most meta. I'm not a scientist, and that's not why you're here. We're trying to figure out which ones are the most TikTok slime satisfying. Power is certainly one aspect, but how does the gun look? How does it sound? What's its impact on the gameplay? And most importantly, how memorable is it? One series in particular that has a plethora of satisfying guns is the Gears of War series. Originally, I was going to make this a definitive top 10 list, but quite honestly, I couldn't pick just one gun from these games because so many of them feel so fucking good. If you played this game even one time, you remember exactly where you were when you split someone open with the chainsaw on the Lancer. Is there any execution in a game better than that? It just feels so fucking visceral to go through someone like it's a tree. The machine gun quality is fine, but that is not at all why you use it. You use it to feel like a lumberjack. The torque bow is another favorite of mine from the series because it's kind of like a Semtex launching bow and arrow. Now, is this a gun per se? No, we will leave these arguments to MatPat, but sticking someone with a torque bow and watching them explode always gave me a giddy feeling while playing. Not to mention, it makes this cool sound that if you ever hear from the enemy team, fucking run. The sniper is also pretty fun because when you get a headshot, it's not like your typical shooter where they just die. In this game, their head explodes like a hot dog in a microwave. The Hammer of Dawn is an amazing gun too. Maybe not indoors, but outdoors for sure. At the time, this was the best fucking gun I had ever used. There was a map called Rooftops, I think, in Gears of War 1, where whoever got that gun just won the game automatically. But I think the most satisfying gun in the whole series is the Gnasher. There's a reason why pretty much everyone exclusively uses the Gnasher in multiplayer. It is so fucking deadly and has some fun executions too. It is one of, if not the best video game shotgun, especially when you get that active reload and start smoking your enemies. Another reason I was raring to make this video was because I was in the middle of a Dead Space playthrough, and good fucking god, the plasma cutter is such a good fucking gun. It's so good it's almost not worth using any other gun for which there is an achievement. Rather than using the gun to kill the enemies directly, you want to slice the limbs off them, hence the plasma cutter. This choice in gameplay makes it way more horrifying and vulnerable, which is exactly what you want in a game of this nature. This gun is also super cool narratively because you don't play as a soldier, spy, agent, or superhuman with good gun power abilities like that movie with James McAvoy. You are an engineer and use the engineering tool, the plasma cutter. Super versatile and good in every situation, making this one of the more satisfying guns in video games. I have done my fair share of shitting on Overwatch in the past, but I did also play the original Overwatch a lot. There are quite a few satisfying guns in this game, like Roadhog's scrap gun, which used to be a guaranteed one-shot kill after a nice hook, but I think the coolest gun in Overwatch is Lucio's sonic amplifier. I could be a touch biased here because Lucio was my undisputed main, but you're lying to me and yourself if you don't think this gun is so satisfying. This gun makes a cool sound when you shoot it, especially when you boop someone off the map. It did a couple of fun little ditties when you switched between speed boost or healing, and even had a skin that changed the song to a jazzy tune.
Yeah, let's move it, people.
Couple this with Lucio's wall running and you've got yourself one of the most fun video game weapons. Call of Duty may not be built on super satisfying weapons, but do have a few that receive the satisfying moniker. In Modern Warfare, a gun that I always find really gratifying is the Intervention, not only because it's a great sniper rifle you see in all the Modern Warfare trick shots, but the sound of it is so goddamn good. Like, fucking listen to this. Black Ops 2 had a few great guns like the MSMC, which was and still is a pretty broken submachine gun. This gun ran rampant in multiplayer for a very long time, even after being nerfed. But one of the best guns in the game was easily the DSR-50. The DSR was another deadly sniper rifle that again you saw in a lot of Call of Duty trick shots and montages. This gun was slow but insanely deadly from torso up. This gun was also nerfed, spawning a funny FaZe Jeff video where he says, "If I shoot you with a DSR-50, you need to fucking die."
If I shoot you with the DSR-50, you need to fucking die.
Ratchet & Clank is built on the premise of having a massive arsenal at your disposal. One of the more standout guns in my opinion though is the Rhino. You may not be able to acquire this gun on your first playthrough, but when you do end up getting it, ooh man, this gun feels like a fine wine. Once you get it, it's pretty much not worth using any other weapon considering it is the most powerful in the game and the ammo for it is incredibly cheap, all things considered. The only downside to the gun is the fact that you can really only get it after the game is over, so there's not a whole lot of point to having it, but still fun and definitely a staple of the series. Even Rareware got in on the gun craze with Perfect Dark, which is a successor to the incomparable GoldenEye 007, which features a satisfying gun in its own right, the Golden Gun, which is a one-shot, one-kill gun that is high risk but high reward, but I'm getting a bit off track. I wanted to specifically bring up the Farsight from Perfect Dark. This gun is super fun to use and has some very fascinating mechanics. This gun specifically allows you to see enemies through walls, and even further than that, it allows you to kill them through the wall, which is one of the coolest concepts for a gun I have ever seen. Speaking of cool concepts for their guns, surprisingly enough, Turok 2 has a really interesting gun called the Cerebral Bore, which, yes, is a stupid dinosaur game that is, holy shit, $158! Wait, thank God. Whew, okay. Anyway, this gun is one where you shoot it and the bullet digs through the dinosaur's cranium, hence the name Cerebral Bore. Not only is the animation of drilling into the dinosaur's head satisfying in and of itself, but it's also got a very nice lock-on targeting system that makes it nearly impossible to miss shots. This gun has made quite the impression among fossil fighters who have played the game solely due to its very gruesome nature. The only downside to the weapon is its ineffectiveness against certain enemies and bosses, but still an incredibly fun weapon to use against anything you plan on making extinct. Now, we all know generally how I feel about Resident Evil 4, but it is also no secret that your arsenal of weapons is what helps to make the game as entertaining as it is. There's plenty of discourse over what the best weapon in the game is. A lot of people seem to like the Red 9 due to its staggeringly high firepower and the ability to put a stock on it, reducing Leon's recoil. People seem to like the Punisher as well due to the ability for bullets to pass through enemies. I believe this is called Full Metal Jacket or penetration. Also, can't forget to mention the shotguns, specifically the Riot Gun, which is a super great shotgun that is a one-shot kill machine. But my favorite gun in the game has gotta be the Blacktail. This gun may not be quite as powerful as the Red 9 and doesn't get the option for putting a stock on it either, which may sound like it's not as good, but rest assured this gun is still fantastic. It doesn't do much per bullet, but it does more damage per second due to its high rate of fire. Plus, it handles a lot better than most of the other guns in the game, making this gun a top contender for a wonderfully crafted firearm. If we want to talk about wonderfully crafted firearms though, does it get any better than Halo CE's pistol? The satisfaction for this weapon comes from its effectiveness as a mid-range weapon, which meant it outperformed a large handful of other weapons in the game, not just in the campaign, but in the multiplayer as well. The gun also allowed for some very internet culture history machinima. You could aim the weapon down and slightly tilt yourself up and down, allowing for a talking effect. This paved the way for millions of memes and hit videos, more specifically Red vs. Blue, which was one of the most influential internet series to ever exist. But this isn't the only weapon in the game that is satisfying to me though. The lock-on nature of the Needler makes that one a starter, just with how fun it is to see the needles follow a grunt and fuck it up. The Halo guns do have a bit of classic status to them, but it doesn't get more classic than the BFG, or the Big Fucking Gun, or the Big Force Gun if you're Dwayne The Rock Rock Johnson. This gun was kind of a precursor to the purple Moira bubble, where you would shoot it and it would bounce off walls and enemies. Where this gun differed though was how it killed the enemies. Instead of doing Moira damage per second, this will incinerate the enemies in its area. This is easily the most powerful gun in the game, which adds to its satisfying nature. This is one of the more iconic weapons in video games and has been Easter egged in a million other games. And this is mostly because Doom was not only one of the first-person shooters ever made, but ended up inspiring a large quantity of other FPSs down the road. The portal gun is super interesting too, purely because this isn't a gun that does any damage. It is simply a tool to solve puzzles. The joy of solving a variety of puzzles with a cool gun that gives you an infinite amount of movement freedom is one that you can't get in games like Call of Duty. This gun was super influential on tons of games that featured the same mechanic like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and also makes this cool ass sound. Nintendo gets in on this phenomenon every now and then in its own right. Splatoon has a pretty large plethora of fun and interesting guns, like the Splooshomatic and the Clash Blaster, which are two of my personal favorites from the game. The former looking eerily similar to Lucio's Sonic Amplifier, and the latter looking like a crayon launcher, which is apt for its player base, myself included. The buckets and rollers may not be your traditional guns, but are great weapons as well. The game also features its own version of the NES Zapper called the N-Zap, which, while we're on the topic, Nintendo back in the day of Aerosmith and mullets released a plastic version of a gun called the NES Zapper that was used for games like Duck Hunt, Wild Gunman, and Hogan's Alley. And in Nintendo's epic Mickey quest to fill the Earth's ocean with a mountain of plastic shit, the Zapper was remade later on for the Wii. While not quite what we're going for in this video, this is still an important and incredibly satisfying piece of video game history. What are you doing here?
Most satisfying guns in video games? Most satisfying deaths IRL.
Jello Beats, holla at me.